It was my intention when I began to write an introduction to my work on the Germans. Though its thick folders lie beside me now, I know I cannot. Endings, instead, possess me. All ways out.
This video is brought to you by the Party of Disappointed People.
Hey, welcome to Meyer's Mega Fictional Musings. I'm John, no relation Wayne. Thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, before I attempt a review at the tunnel here, I just got to start with this. A quick thank you, I guess, or just I just want to make clear to everyone how blessed I feel to have found my way this last year or so into this awesome online community of like-minded fiction lovers, I guess. And through Twitter first, I created an account a while ago and just found myself getting more and more into it. So it's been just fabulous this last year or so, and it's enhanced my life considerably. Thinking about how I spend my free time. If I'm not reading or playing with the kiddos, I'm just consuming content online. Maybe even from some people just like yourself. So thank you again. And I also want to just draw your attention to a phrase or a word or a term that I really connect with, and it's called mono nowhere. So yeah, obviously a definition that's open for interpretation. But when I first came across that term, and as I reflect upon it, I guess it's almost like I feel this strange sort of regret or a nostalgia or a yearning to connect in real life with everyone that I've encountered online. Almost, it's like I wish that we could have cocktails and conversations about these fantastic books we read. So it's something that likely will never happen, obviously, but I just really connected with that phrase, and I find that it applies to this current world we live in here. Also, guys, I just need to make aware quick that I'm a very big teacher nerd, so I had to, for my own sanity, if anything, I had to have a little bit of structure to this video, and also I thought it appropriate that I record in my basement, where there are no tunnels being dug.
Initial reactions.
Okay, so as I've digested this book, which has been 2 to 3 weeks, a couple of weeks ago, I guess, and really thought about it, I guess I was a little bit reluctant and hesitant because I just wanted to do this book justice. Now on this channel, I just want to offer my humble thoughts and reflections on the books I read, and I think my family and friends would be pretty quick to say that I've been known to overstate things in the past, but without exaggerating, this book is nothing short of a masterpiece. It's the kind of book where you sit there reading with a dumb look on your face at the wonder of it. Be reading and it's just like, you're looking off into space and just thinking, and my wife might say to me, "Are you okay?" But so it's just so much wonder and awe at the writing, and just the interpretation of the ideas, the execution of ideas and truths and realities in the book is astounding. Just pure appreciation for writing. But it's also a book that is vile and dark and gruesome even, and disturbing. But some more initial reactions. I realized pretty quick getting into this that I would never want my wife or my mom or later in life my kids or even some of my colleagues to know how much I just loved this book, because it is so gross and just hard hitting at times. So I found myself thinking that pretty quickly, just why do I like this book as much as I do? And also, as I've been making these first couple of videos here on YouTube, I know I wanted to be aware of not spoiling in any review I do or whatever, and then I was like, this book can't be spoiled. I just don't buy it. There's absolutely no way. This book is for everyone who reads it, every single time, it's going to be an entirely unique experience and different every time. And I saw in one of the reviews, Michael Silverblatt, I think he said he read it 4.5 times, and this book absolutely would reward rereads. And so, what with the liquor, I'll be honest, and the golfing costs, I have to be a little bit choosy with the books I'm purchasing. That being said, I will be purchasing this book without a doubt. I realized that pretty quickly, and although the quality and abundance of great titles coming out online that I feel like I need to read is just so overwhelming as well. But this is no doubt going to be a reread for me within 3 to 5 years.
Structure, plot, and form.
Okay, so I think it's important to talk about the structure of this novel and plot, and I kind of lumped them together just because I spoke about how I think plot and that is kind of secondary in this book, which is okay, which is great, which is fine. Now, what it is essentially is there's this protagonist goes by the name of William Frederick Kohler. He is a professor at a Midwestern university, and he's attempting to write an introduction to what I think is a fairly renowned published document that he wrote at some point earlier in his life, titled "Guilt and Innocence in Hitler's Germany." Okay, so rather than do this, instead he is sort of compelled to construct and reflect on events, ideas, and individuals from his life. So he's really feels compelled to do this. So additionally, while he's doing this, sort of the present day narrative, I guess, William Kohler at some point decides to dig this tunnel in his basement with the sense of he's trying to escape something. And again, without giving anything away, it has to be said the novel is definitely a bit disorienting at first, no doubt. And I think Gass purposely does this. He does this by incorporating a variety of pictures, graphics, interjections with different fonts. And these seem pretty random at times, and admittedly it is a little bit distracting and tough to make sense of in the early going in this. I'll show you a couple of examples here real quick. And like they're pretty short and brief, and they're well done. They're cool. Now, again, if it did distract me from the narrative a little bit, but it didn't as well. I got through it pretty quickly, and they're cool. Looking back on it now, it's funny how that works. But like. So yeah, but as I said, I think this is intentional. And for me, I kept referring to, as I was finishing the book on Twitter and stuff, I would refer to being close to the end of the tunnel because it's a very aptly named novel. The experience of reading it absolutely feels, I guess, like a tunnel, however you want to think about that. Because the book very much narrows its focus, I guess, and it narrows the coherence of the writing, comes together for the latter part of the book, and it's very, very accessible, I would say. So once the plot really establishes itself in this book, and that the style really gets to read like a number of very small narratives, actually, which I'll get into a little bit later on, but it becomes highly engaging.
Language and accessibility.
The language. Let's talk about that language, because this is without a doubt the most beautifully written book I think I have ever read. It's what gives this book its identity, no doubt, the beautiful language. Even though at first, like I said, it might have seemed a little bit scattered with I want to show you a couple more here, with the initial kind of sense of you don't really know what's going on, like what do these little snippets even mean? Just a couple more here. Yeah, so. But obviously I got past it, you get past it and start to appreciate just soaking in the language and taking it all in. And it's this figurative language, which apparently I haven't been reading enough of in previous novels, because the figurative language is just, and the metaphors in this novel are utterly captivating and super smart throughout the book. Like never a dull spot. Honestly, you could flip to any part of this book and instantly just be sucked right in. You can tell, I think, why William Gass spent apparently over a decade to write this novel. And if I'm being honest, I also had to really resist the urge to just read passages from this novel to you. It's obviously not very constructive, but a really quick one here. Now, Kohler complains about so many things throughout the novel, his wife included. And this one little segment here, I remember writing it down. She sugars her scorn like cereal and butters her spite like a bun. Words, however, gentlemen, words do more than fly from their tails, burning like the peacock. And when we put our thoughts together well, men think well of us. When our speech is passionate, they feel strongly. When our vision has become entirely verbal, it will be as if we'd lifted covers from the blind. They'll canary in their cages, and there'll be daytime always. In defiance of nature and every law, night will die neglected. Words, then, gentlemen, Not in mother's home sweet mottos, but in the miseries of history, those that go like loneliness through the soul. These are the words I mean. No, that was from one of the narratives that focuses on one of Kohler's mentors from who has since passed away. Goes by the name of Magus Tabor, or Tabor, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. A lot of the chapters then are just kind of sectioned. They're titled Mad Meg, which was his nickname apparently. And presumably he was lecturing there. And so Kohler is he's undoubtedly shaped by the beliefs that this mentor of his had, for sure. Another just quick little snapshot of the language here before we get into the characters and narrative. So this is just simply Kohler complaining about his colleagues that he all detests. One of them goes by the name of Culp, so it's just titled Culp, and this is the start of the chapter. Culp is a calamity. He is a punishment for my sins, a plague of boils, a subcutaneous itch, a neural jangle. After everyone else has walked out of my mind, he lingers like a bad smell.
Characters and narratives.
Now let it be understood, William Frederick Kohler is this book. And there are only really about a handful of other characters in the story, okay? Which again, if don't forget, is sort of like an inadvertent memoir. Now we only come to know these characters, you realize this pretty quickly in the book, only through the eyes of Kohler. Extremely tainted views on those people that are close to him. So a few of these other characters include his wife, to a lesser extent his kids. In the flashback chapters, he'll talk about his parents, as well as his colleagues at the university he teaches at, and his lovers that he tries to seduce in his classes. William Frederick Kohler's hobbies and interests include bigotry, apathy, gluttony, deceit, and the like. He pretty much is the worst type of humanity you can imagine, to be honest. And his goal with this book, as he writes this introduction list, or whatever you want to call it, memoir, is basically to justify his convictions and beliefs to us, the reader. And I got to tell you, he does a pretty good job with some of the content in here. Some of it kind of reads like sad truths, to be honest. So gas makes it so it's not easy to look away. Real quick though, also, I want to make it clear, I'm a very positive person. So Kohler has in fact invented sort of his own political party, of which he is very, he talks in the writing about how he wants to recruit like-minded individuals who understand this sort of the sad trajectory of human history and of human nature. And he calls this the party of disappointed people. So earlier in the video, I mentioned these sort of small narratives. So once you get through the first third of the book, that's a little bit more challenging, and William Gass incorporates these sort of pictures and graphics to throw you off a bit. These small narratives read like mini stories in themselves. They could absolutely be read as standalone pieces. So what I want to do is just kind of go over some of those narratives and perhaps even read to you sections from them. Now, one of the phrases Kohler continually gives us readers is the fact that he wants to make it clear that in his youth he gave up poetry for history. Now, there are many of these small narratives that look at Kohler's sad youth. We learn about his family, much about his severely debilitating alcoholic mother and his kind of scornful and disconnected father. And I guess from an outsider's perspective, Kohler, he has a good career, he has a family, but he is just continually detestable in this novel. And there are many, many sections that discuss his scorn for people in his life. A lot of them have to do with his disregard and his scorn for his colleagues. And a few sections also deal with his seduction and bribery of the female students he teaches. And they really focus in on the affair. I guess it's the affair he has with one of his students who's referred to as Lou. And Kohler doesn't even, dwell on the fact that he's a married man. There's quite a few sections in this book that involve just him and this Lou, one of his students that he spent quite a bit of time with, or just any number of his lovers. There's a couple more that he goes into detail on, but he just doesn't even mention the fact that he is married, and any feelings of regret or awareness in that regard are non-existent. This book has just so much to marvel at, though, you guys, and these little narratives, they just contain multitudes. There's one section and it's just called Being a Bigot. Okay, and I'm just going to read to you a part of that real quick. It says, I am aware that bigotry is often loosely defined as a kind of intellectual and moral intolerance, but the dictionary is never right, always deferring to the mob. You can't be bigoted about your brother even if he's an envied Abel and you are akin to Cain. Nor is bigotry blind, as is often asserted. It may tell only half the story, but the story it does tell is true. I mentioned there were only a handful of other characters in this book, but I think there are two of them specifically that I'm inclined to believe are actually wonderful people. Now, I mentioned that we only experienced them as readers through the eyes of Kohler, if you will. And one of these is a colleague of his at the university who goes by the name Herschel. And I just noticed, in Kohler's descriptions, he's very much he just seems like a very, calm, attentive, hardworking professional who listens to people and is considerate. Yet at the same time, Kohler detests him. And so many of the narratives kind of go in deeper into, I guess, his reasons for this. Again, these narratives, many of them are Kohler's reflections. Now, interspersed with these, narratives that take place in the past, there are sections that, are focused on the present and the digging of this tunnel, if you will. And some of them, I remember, are focused on how Kohler is going to deal with the dirt that he accumulates digging this tunnel. And so, not to spoil anything for you, but what he ends up doing is his wife owns a furniture store. And over the years, she has accumulated in their house and hallway and the spaces and the areas all these bits of furniture and cabinetry or whatever. So Kohler decides he takes the dirt from his digging and places it in these drawers with the hopes that his wife will never find it. Really, I could go on, but the structure of this book is, for me, it was really, really easy to follow. I'll stress it again, but these little narratives, there was another great section I remember where Kohler sits down and explores this old family photo album of his, and there's these little snippets that are actually separated, I remember, by just little squares, much in the same way as Gravity's Rainbow actually was separated. But anyway, and another great section, amazing piece, talks about Kohler when he's got a typical day off from teaching at the university, right? And it's just a riveting section where he's like, I guess it would read, from how I understand, a stream of consciousness type of narrative, where Kohler is kind of waking up and he is thinking of ways to avoid his family, and he's ruminating on things like bowel movements and what he's going to do for the day. And it was just fabulous stuff. I got just a little bit from that section. It's called Around the House. I get up grumpy and bellyache my way through breakfast. Sometimes I spend an entire day secretly asleep. Normally, however, I rest a moment after the alarm has had its say, letting my eyes be lit by the early light and study the strength of its shine from a safe distance. A little bit later on, wiping is a big deal. I'd like to say I am orderly and meticulous, but in all honesty, I am hurried and slapdash. I usually pull off 3 sheets and fold them over to make one thick square. After all, to be orderly is anal, and I guess that's appropriate here. Another one of his colleagues that comprise a few of the narratives, he goes by the name Culp, actually. It's the one he detests the most of his colleagues. And this Culp person really, really loves wordplay, I guess, or like limericks specifically. And throughout the novel, actually, we get Kohler's kind of takes on these poems or these limericks that were made famous by this colleague of his that he detests. So the vast majority of them actually begin with the phrase, I once went to bed with a nun. I once went to bed with a nun who prayed the whole time it was done. She prayed to her maker to come quick and take her, so I did as she bid and then some. To this lewd old professor of history, our life has a spermy trajectory. We fish for a mate, but ourselves are the bait, though why we do so is a mystery. As you can see, many of them, most of them are, I guess, playful and inappropriate, but he gets kind of intense with some of them as well. So this one says, what will you do, God, when I croak? I am your jug when I am broke. I am your ale when I've gone flat. Your daily stint, your feathered hat. You won't mean nothing after that. Another fabulous narrative among many. Looks at Kohler's first winter as a married man, I guess. I can't remember what it's titled, but we see the beginnings of how he begins to just hate his wife, essentially, and his complete disregard for her. So here's this little bit. It finishes the section. It's a pretty lengthy one, but he ends it with this paragraph here. It says, "We'd remain married. I would see to that. One life would not be long enough for my revenge. The coarse baritone in which I made my vows came like an errant echo from another skull, an outcry left behind on the stage like an actor's closing lines." So he, after not much time, he realizes how much he hates his wife. And it's quite disturbing and sad. So a few more of these chapters or sections, flashback style, include Kohler attempting to learn how to drive with his father. Another one talks about his severely alcoholic mother and her attempts to bake a cake for Kohler as a young adolescent. He must be 12 or 13 years old. So she bakes him this cake, but they forget to invite people. Another one talks about, there's a couple of ones that deal with traumatic childhood accidents that kind of happened to Kohler. And there's another lovely little section that describes these candy stores into fabulous detail, actually, these delicious sounding candies. So it's these stores, these candy stores around Kohler's school where he grew up, which he would lie and steal money in order to frequent and pig out. So just to reiterate here with regards to characters and narrative, just that I feel like this book is so much more accessible than it lets on. As I mentioned, these sort of shorter segments that are very accurately titled, they read so nicely, and they're just fantastic little standalone pieces, if you will.
Musings.
Part of what made this book so compelling and deeply affecting for me is the fact that through all of this book and Kohler's inadvertent writing, if you will, he is incredibly self-aware. So he's aware of his thoughts. He tells us his thoughts. And when you have someone who is educated like he is, naturally inclined to thought and introspection and reflection, who also happens to be a hateful bigot, it just, to me, that's very, very disturbing and sad. As I was getting into the meat of the book, I really realized, and I came to terms with it, that there likely wouldn't be too many forms of redemption in this novel, which I gotta be honest, I do appreciate in a good book. On that note, however, I would love to hear people's thoughts on the ending, specifically in this novel, because I feel like there just might be the tiniest fraction that could be considered perhaps somewhat redeeming with regards to Kohler's actions. But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts because I'm probably wrong. The book is actually funny in some parts. Now, I say this as a very happily married family man. And Meg, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry. But there's these parts where Kohler, when he complains, which, by the way, permeates the book, he illustrates his disgust for his wife and other people in his life. But I found myself sometimes kind of giggling with the sections in this book that look specifically at Kohler's youth. I thought were by far and away the saddest part of this novel, because there's this sense of loneliness that pervades everything. Young Kohler is a totally engaged, highly inept, hopeless little guy. And maybe this is the teacher in me talking, but he also has nothing in terms of support. Granted, though, his aunt, as I mentioned earlier, could have been a source of, some kind of joy or comfort in his life, but he just disregards her as well. So in short summary here, you guys, this book is nothing short of a masterful literary creation, a virtuosic linguistic display with a lingering presence. It is, honest to goodness, a top 3 instant favorite of mine. I just finished Against the Day back in November, and this is better, I think. I will no doubt be purchasing this book for a reread down the road. It is an enduring gift to literature, honestly. So if you're thinking of reading it, you really, really should. All right, from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely want to thank you for watching this video. I can only hope you took something from it. I really, really hope it was worth your time. If so, drop me a thumbs up, or better yet, a subscription. I hope to make some more video reviews like this. I'm currently reading the novel Explosives by Jim Gower, which is awesome. So everyone stay safe. Don't work too hard, and catch you later on down the trail.